All right, I think we are live, and as you can see, it is just me, and Matt is on the phone right now, so we're going to kind of reach out to you guys to see how he's coming through, how his audio is coming through. Matt is actually in BFE camping for this beautiful 4th of July weekend, and we were having some technical difficulties trying to get him to call in and not having a whole lot of luck, so if you guys can you let us know if you can hear him? Matt, go ahead, I guess, jump in, and then let us know if you have problems hearing Matt.
Jump on it. Jump on it. Fuck KOA Wi-Fi. It sucks ass.
So hopefully it's clear. Our viewers are starting to roll up. We're at 19 right now. Can you read any of the comments at all, Matt? Or are you just going completely blind?
I haven't clicked over yet.
Okay.
I was walking back after being in the laundry room at the building trying to get better Wi-Fi. So now I'm actually walking back to my camper. So hopefully it's quiet and I don't have a bunch of little kids yelling and shit.
All right. So Marcus Jenkins says I can hear him now. Low quality, but we good.
I'm gonna switch over to normal phone, so it's not Bluetooth sounding shit coming through. So
that might help. Yeah, that might help. Men in Tights podcast says audio sounds all right. This is pretty much straight speakerphone is all we're doing right now. We were trying just to have some audio come through from Matt's phone initially, but there was such a delay that it'd be hard for us to kind of play off each other. So that's, we're trying to do whatever we can. It's typical Marks. We're late to the show, and then we're just slamming this together best we can. So
yeah, there was a 6-second delay in what was happening, and then for some reason the terrible connection would drop, and so a 6-second delay, even though 6 seconds is a long time for something, wasn't long enough. It was a odd delay time. So
it's an eternity for some.
I don't know. Well, that's how some babies are made in less than 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Right, Shane?
Exactly.
Do I sound better now off Bluetooth?
Yeah, at least to me. Hopefully to everyone else. Carlos Martinez says sounds like Matt is talking from inside a mother box. The bell has been rung. Men Inside's podcast, Trailer Trash at its finest. Yes, indeed. So we're going to try to give you guys the best show that we possibly can, as we typically do. We have a slate here of just stuff from Ray Fisher to a lot of the things that Zack Snyder's been talking about today. And then we even have a little bit of more Henry Cavill stuff. So it should be fun. Marcus Jenkins wants you to do a Bane impression, Matt.
Do you feel in charge? I have no idea how that's going to come through.
It sounded pretty good to me.
Actually, wait, hold on. I got a fucking red solo cup here. Hold on. Let me kind of...
Shadow Vessel, that's dedication, guys. Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to give you something at least.
I can talk like this through the red solo cup. Does that sound like Bane?
No.
Okay.
That's mine.
Giving up on the red solo cup.
Sci-Fi Dragon, hope you guys are having a good 4th of July so far. Yes, so for our American followers, happy 4th of July. Hope you are enjoying this weekend and staying safe. We're surprisingly, it looks like people don't have anything else better to do. We're already at 51 viewers. And I had this queued up. I wasn't sure if I was going to play it because of copyright, but just wanted to throw it out there a little bit. Some 4th of July action for our wrestling fans, American made.
We had the same thoughts.
I had this queued up, but then our entire, thing with your audio was kind of jacking up. So I was like, oh, I don't know, but it's fine.
Well, make sure your speaker's facing the microphone, or else no one's gonna be able to hear
it. It's coming straight off of my laptop, so hopefully it's working. I don't know. Oh, Men in Tight said WCW Hogan theme. Yep. All right. Sounds like it's coming through. Anyways, so happy 4th of July to our American followers. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone for joining us on this lovely day.
Or just joining Shane while his phone makes obnoxious noises.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be kind of awkward. I need to minimize my thing real quick so that you guys don't have to just stare at me. Oh, yeah. You have no idea.
The minimizing of the thing.
Yeah. So, I guess real quick, we have a new fan from India. Happy 4th. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but thank you so much. He says, happy 4th. Have fun. Stay safe. Ton of updates from Zack. Yep, we're going to be covering all those. So it should be fun. So we're just going to jump right into it. Do the best we can. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. So some of the first things, we released a video a couple days ago with Ray Fisher, all the stuff that's going on with him. And obviously the very next day so this would be like 3 days ago now, Ray Fisher drops another bombshell, this one even more so, basically saying Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the cast and crew of Justice League was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. He was enabled in many ways by Geoff Johns and WB. Another bomb drop in there, accountability over entertainment. And then Clay Anos with the beautiful retweet, I heard the same thing.
Yeah, so bootleg Matt here, talking through a phone still. This is going to be so weird to have this conversation like this.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, this was truly something that was huge. And it sucks that, of course, we recorded our episode the day prior, before all this major accusations came out. Of course, the previous day, that his tweet was not so cryptic, but it just definitely said, I take back everything I said of anything positive about Joss Whedon. And that was kind of the gist of that. And now it's more of like, damn, he was unprofessional. He made poor choices. He treated the cast like crap. And again, accountability over entertainment. And there's a lot of fundamental things that go into this. It's not so clear cut, but it's crazy to see that level of that choice of words for this particular situation and this time frame too. Like what's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, or is Ray Fisher just had enough and he's finally saying what he was wanting to say this whole time?
Yeah, there's another tweet that he liked or retweeted that we'll get into here in a second. But yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, something is either about to happen or he's just pretty much completely fed up and decided to take to Twitter, drop some bombshells. Our typical style, the Comic Movie Mark's typical style, whether it's intentional or not, is we will be late to dropping videos on a lot of this stuff. And this is usually we benefit from stuff like this. We can compile a bunch of information that comes out across several days, and then boom, we drop our video. We're trying to be a little bit more timely with our videos, hopefully get them out a lot sooner. And then boom, this one bites us in the ass, but here we are. It's fine. It is what it is.
Now we get to do the fun thing of double dipping, my friend.
Exactly. Boom.
We get to double dip that chip of fun. One of the, this whole thing with Ray Fisher, and then you see the other cast and crew members. Of course, the body double for Wonder Woman for Gal Gadot comes out. She obviously completely agrees. Cyborg's mom, I believe, is Carolyn Benson. I'm not positive. I can't look at anything, so I'm just on a phone right now, talking through a microphone.
Right, yes. Ultimate Blaze says, why is this guy underwater? Well, now you know he's just talking through a phone. Sorry.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. I am not in my studio at the time. I am in a camper, and of course, it sounds like shit. So that's normal, That's just how it is. So
yeah, well, there's so much stuff that dropped this week that we've been kind of itching to talk about. So that's mainly why we wanted to bring you guys this live stream. Appreciate everyone who's joining us right now. Jose M says Shane streaming in 2020, Matt streaming in 2000. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, we get it. Ha ha, he he. All right, God damn it. This is serious shit.
Right.
But yeah, obviously you see the cast and crew coming out in Ray Fisher's defense, and something that I found profusely funny throughout this whole thing, and one thing that I found, I don't know, it kind of makes me laugh that some people just can't put two and two together. Like, there's this great gif of like Homer trying to put puzzle pieces together, and he starts hammering it with his fist, and that kind of reminds me of a lot of people on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
when it comes
social
to this.
media.
And of course, in our previous video, we put some of the dumbasses like, "Oh, Ray Fisher obviously doesn't know how the process of filmmaking works," and yeah, because this dude with 20 followers definitely knows the process of filmmaking over Ray Fisher. Definitely, I don't see how Ray Fisher should get pointers from this guy, but it's kind of interesting to see that there's some people, the bloggers, the journalists, and stuff like that, that do have some kind of connections. They're like, "Well, I talked to some people that we knew, and they say that the Joss Whedon reshoots were pretty uneventful. Nothing much happened. They were actually, all they were was just fast paced and a little rushed because they were trying to get all these reshoots done in time." But then you hear the cast and crew members, and you hear what happened possibly with Gal Gadot's body double being used for the tit falling scene. And you hear a couple other things, what maybe Joss Whedon did to Gal Gadot because she wouldn't do the scene. You hear about all that information. You hear the cast and crew is very adamantly against Joss Whedon, John Berg, and Geoff Johns. But then you have these people with these sources saying, "Well, I heard it's uneventful. This isn't really that big of a deal." Well, guess what? Why would anybody in WB, either executives, producers, bottom of the line guys, why would they have that information about what the cast and crew went through, and why would they even tell you? Why are people not realizing at this point that the Snyder Cut, Justice League, is one of the biggest secrets in Hollywood at this time? Well, maybe not the biggest secret, because when it comes to movies anyway, when it comes to the fact that they're trying to hide as much information about how this thing went down. That's why that Hollywood Reporter article that came out with Zack Snyder, that's why that was like a fluff piece. We know some of that information in there is wrong. It was a fluff piece, something Snyder agreed to because he's getting his movie. And these are this is the games that these executives are playing and these producers are playing because no one wants to take accountability, exactly what Ray Fisher said.
Yeah, it's crazy. He even then yesterday, he says, I believe Kai Cole, which is Whedon's ex-wife, and Charisma Carpenter, which is an actress who was on a show, I think it was a spinoff from Buffy that Joss Whedon was a part of. And essentially, the rumor is he fired her for becoming pregnant, basically wrote her off the show completely, so she was without a job. And I believe Charisma also talks about some other things of just kind of how he handled himself. And one of the things that irritates me the most is how a lot of people right now, as Matt was just mentioning, behind the scenes are saying, "Oh, well, how come none of this came out from the Marvel casting crew? How come the people from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, things like that, how come none of them are saying anything?" Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't experience anything. Maybe they're just like, "Oh, this is business." There are people who will deal with actors, who will deal with directors, and they just go, "Oh yeah, he's an asshole. I just know who he is." And they just kind of write it off like it's not a big deal. Well, Ray, obviously it was a big deal to Ray, and that's why he's coming out with all of this stuff now. And obviously there's something that he finally needed to get off his chest, and decided to really, just drop the bombshell on all this stuff. And then today, this was the one that he liked, and this was in reply. Did he retweet it? Okay, so he retweeted it. And Matt coming through with the hardcore facts through cell phone. But so if you haven't seen it, don't watch it. But John Campea talks about Ray Fisher's comments. In a nutshell, basically says that how Ray Fisher is handling himself is like a teenager in high school. That's something that you would do if he's not being professional. He's running to Twitter to air his grievances as opposed to, handling himself professionally and trying to work through behind the scenes. So John Campea don't really care, but he basically totally disagrees with the way Ray Fisher's handling himself.
Ass out of himself with that video. And he likes using the word prepubescent. I think he just learned it, or he has an asphyxiation with the word prepubescent, I think.
Yeah. That's concerning that he likes that word prepubescent, but I digress. So the tweet that comes from James the Creative, and he says, "What if Ray Fisher tried diplomacy in private, but it didn't work or fell on deaf ears? Why shouldn't he make it public? That last resort is inevitable if no one is paying attention. Have you considered this possibility before you went on to crucify Ray?" The answer is probably no. But yes, Ray Fisher then retweets this. So obviously he's acknowledging, yeah, I tried behind the scenes and nothing's happening. And obviously he feels so strongly about how Whedon was on the set that he decided, okay, it's time to come forth with some information here. And it's not just for no good reason. It's because he feels adamant that he does not want other people to have to go through this same stuff. It's why anyone comes forward with any of their grievances or whatever they have. It's because they don't want other people to deal with the same exact thing that they had to deal with. And obviously he said he was unprofessional, he was abusive. Kevin Smith on his show does a really good cool kind of breakdown, I guess, of as cool as it could be, of the words that Ray Fisher used in his tweet that we read earlier, and talks about like what he could possibly mean by these words that he's using. And essentially Kevin Smith said, yeah, I could see that. I agree. And then he goes on to corroborate some of the stuff with his own information.
Yeah, he even talks about, yes, and this is hearsay, that he heard some very similar things on set about Joss Whedon, that he was an asshole. And one of the biggest things that possibly made the set very uncomfortable, according to Kevin Smith, was that some of the things that Whedon was saying was about Snyder and Snyder's cut, and making things very uncomfortable. And you could see when there was so much respect, so much loyalty from this cast and crew towards Snyder, yeah, that's going to make things very uncomfortable and very unprofessional. And I think that leads up to a lot of things. And then how he treated some of the cast members, that's another big thing. And that's where it comes in from the enabling part with Jon Berg and Geoff Johns. Those are two people that were instrumental on trying to push Snyder out. So if Whedon is talking shit about Zack Snyder, yeah, they're enabling him because they don't like Zack Snyder. They don't want Zack Snyder's future or Snyder's vision to come out. They don't want that to come out. They want instant hope, instant optimism. That's the thing. It's crazy to see that people don't get this, that Whedon and Berg and Johns were assholes to the cast and crew because they wanted to do it Zack's way. And of course, people outside of that aren't going to see anything. It's not like Whedon was yelling at the guy putting up the lights or the guy setting up other things like that. They kept some of those essential Snyder people off set, like Jay Oliva, like Fabian Wagner. They didn't bring them back. Some of the stunt guys came back, but that was about it. They tried to keep that out of it, the Snyder element out. And that's probably some of the things that stuck with Ray Fisher. And of course, he lost a lot. This was his vision of Cyborg that was removed completely from the movie. And the Jon Berg comments where he thinks, I think Jon Berg thought maybe by these comments that he gave to Variety that he was trivializing the comments by Ray Fisher. But if anything, it looks even worse, and he looks like a dumbass when he just brings up the fact that Ray didn't want to say booyah. And he's like, well, I remember him being mad about that. That was about it. And then you read that Black Cape article where Ray Fisher talks about how he didn't want to be the cool talking black guy that has the one-liners and stuff like that. And they literally forced him to do that. He lost his story. It was stripped away from him, everything that he had in it, and they stripped away and made him down into the cool talking black guy with the one-liners just because Cyborg does it in the animated series.
Yep.
I remember when Donner and Lester happened, when you hear Donner talk about Lester, when he's like, I understood the heart of the comics, what the comics were supposed to be. And Lester, he kind of only understood the face value of the comics. That's kind of where I think some of it was lost, when it came to how the movies were done and how it was handled with the cast and crew. He only understood the face value. And even though Geoff Johns is obviously a very good comic writer and he knows his comics, when it comes to Jon Berg and Joss Whedon, you can tell those are face value comic book people. They don't actually understand the comics.
Yeah, I just highlighted a comment. History definitely repeated itself from the Superman 2 fiasco. Absolutely. And if you hear about some of the cast and crew from Superman 2, when Lester came in, they had built a family with Richard Donner, and they had built a family amongst themselves. And then Lester had to come in, and I don't envy a director to have to come in and redo something and add their own spin on certain things and chop up an entire movie, and also try to a cast that's already become a family try to fit into that whole thing and be liked. And I get it. That's an uphill battle, but at the same time, I don't think it's by pushing your own views and your own narratives is the way to go about it. I think the two things that were so eye-opening for me were the John Berg thing, that they were so adamant on, no, you're going to say booyah. I don't care if you want to or not, you're going to say booyah. That's going to be in this movie. And then the other thing was the fact that Gal Gadot did not want to do that scene. She said, absolutely, I'm not going to do that. And Joss Whedon was so adamant on having that specific scene in his movie that he went and got a body double. That's pretty telling to me of, no, it's, if the actress doesn't want to do it, don't go get a body double. Just don't do the damn scene. It's obviously in poor taste, but no, he was so adamant on having that one little thing in there. Again, I guess trying to be the savior, trying to rewrite certain things and bring components of Avengers. I don't know. But those two things to me were like, okay, you guys were obviously going to push whatever it was that you thought that the Justice League should be. It didn't matter what everyone else felt, how the cast and crew felt, that you were going to push it no matter what. And those two things to me were pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, how screwed up is the scenario when you're so adamant to reuse a joke that you used in Age of Ultron?
Yeah.
Less than 2 years old, that joke happened in Age of Ultron, and you're so adamant to reuse it after the actress said no, that you're willing to get a body double to do that.
Yeah.
See, that just shows how lost they were when they were trying to do this, and they had no clue what they were doing, and how much WB has just hidden from this scenario. And one of the biggest reasons I still believe that the Snyder Cut was almost never going to come out if it wasn't for AT&T, because they know how much they fucked up. They know how much they screwed up. And the PR stunts they play. Now, Shane should have a tweet that's bookmarked from a journalist, Abraham, I believe. And the fact that people just can't grasp that WB has been pushing a PR campaign since day one. Since day one, to try to hide and keep this information from the mainstream audience. How people don't seem to catch on to this yet is just beyond me.
Yep. So here's the tweet that Matt was talking about. This Abraham gentleman says, I won't go into detail, but I will say that my 2017 DC Entertainment article was the single most constraining feature I've ever worked on in terms of corporate choreography and third rails. Everyone was paranoid about messaging to an astounding degree. And then he has a little bit of kind of a feed here where he talks about just some other things that it couldn't have been nearly as revealing as I wish it could have been, but it did lead me to reveal the greatest secret of all, which is DC Extended Universe was a term invented by journalists and never used by DC.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's crazy that others just don't catch on to this yet. But at the same time, I feel like some of them do know. You see these guys talk about this stuff like, oh, yeah, this was weird. This happened. Oh, yeah, this happened. Like, there was another article that was written 3 days after Justice League came out that we kind of briefly mentioned in our last video, where it came out November 20th, 2017. And the person was actually trying to berate Zack Snyder, but they bring up a story that Joss Whedon got frustrated with an actor, it doesn't specify who, because they weren't reading the lines exactly the way he had it written.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, it'll be something like that. And so whoever it was, maybe Ray Fisher, maybe Jason Momoa, we're not sure, he calls the whole cast and crew together to say no. And he uses this actor as an example, saying that this is how you need to say it. You write what's written on this script. And it was talking about how Zack Snyder is very lackadaisical. He doesn't really go by the script. And we've heard Snyder say this. He goes by his storyboards. And that becomes a fundamental difference when you're dealing with Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. You couldn't get any more contrasting styles and contrasting directors. That's the big thing. And whether or not Whedon's style is normal for directors and Zack is the one that's kind of weird because he's actually like respects his casting crew, unlike Joss Whedon does.
Right. That is he ahead of the curve there? Is Snyder ahead of the curve where he's like, no, I'm actually going to respect these people and not, be a never mind. He's not going to dictate people to do exactly how he thinks it should go. And I actually think that might be one of the reasons why a lot of the actors that work with Zack Snyder have so much respect for him, is because he has a way that he wants the movie to go. He has his storyboards that he follows. Then there's a script, and we've had some beautiful scripts written with Chris Terrio and David Goyer and a lot of the other people that Snyder has worked with. But he allows the actors to kind of take what they feel would be the best representation for that character and bring that to life. And I think that's pretty cool, and probably is very freeing for a lot of the actors to be able to go, okay, well, here is the script that I should follow. But if there's something like Ray Fisher had mentioned, if there's something that makes them feel uncomfortable that they shouldn't say, or they don't want to say, or maybe a way that they don't want to say something, he's not going to make them do that, which I think is really cool. And you hear up and down all the time of how so many actors have such respect and admiration for Zack Snyder. It's really cool to hear, unless you hear from a fucking blogger. That's the only time.
Ray Fisher, and back to that Black Cape article, he even talks about how Snyder and Terrio were listening to him and treated him, an actor with no film credits, the same way they treated Ben Affleck, the golden boy of Hollywood. And he said they would treat him the same way. They would treat everybody that same way. That there was no difference on how important you were in Zack Snyder's eyes, in Chris Terrio's eyes. And, I guess in Hollywood, that's kind of make-believe land and shit for us, even though we think like that should be how it goes. But in Hollywood, it seems to be the opposite. You got to be an ass. You got to backstab. You got to totally throw people under the bus in order to make it anywhere in Hollywood. So the Snyder way seems to be so weird. Like, how can he do that? How can he treat a guy with no film credit the same way he treats Ben Affleck, a very well-known actor and a drawing and someone that draws movies? Like, that seems crazy. How can he do that? And we, as fans, just think, well, that makes sense. Just treat people with respect. Like, it's such a people in Hollywood just can't seem to fathom that. And some of these bloggers and journalists can't fathom that either. And I think that's also why some of them have an issue with Snyder, because he's not Hollywood. He's not old-fashioned Hollywood that doesn't sit there and tell you how things can't be done instead of giving you a solution of how they can be done. It's just, it won't happen. It can't happen. That's the old Hollywood way. And it's sad to see that that's just like that. And I guess, I don't know, some kind of renaissance, some kind of revolution. I mean, who knows if it's going to happen anytime soon. A lot of things are bubbling right now in society as it is. And that could be another reason why Fisher chose this time to talk about these issues, because he's probably been trying to deal with them for years now. Remember, that's 3 years old, the reshoots now. And he's probably been trying to take care of it in many ways with Geoff Johns and John Berg and the things that happened with Whedon. And then you see that fluff piece that the Hollywood Reporter put out with Zack Snyder and how WB handled that. And it's like, okay, yeah, this stuff is, they're still trying to hide this stuff. They're still trying not to admit what they actually did and how they actually treated these people. Yeah, it becomes the same thing as always. It's old Hollywood. And again, that's kind of the reason why I think sometimes Snyder is looked upon as being an outcast, that he's not a real director because he doesn't follow the old Hollywood ways.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's pretty cool, hopefully, that Ray Fisher feels obviously confident enough in his career that he has someone. Zack Snyder will reuse a lot of the same actors in his movies, or in really crew. Like, he uses a lot of the same stuntmen, a whole slew of the people from his movies he'll reuse. I highlighted this comment real quick because I thought it was kind of funny. Jose M says, a mature intellectual script for a mature comic book, Taika Waititi. What are those? Not to shit on Taika Waititi, but it's director's vision, whatever. But that was pretty funny. And then We have, I apologize, probably going to butcher. And then, let's see. And then Super High Doug Judy says, so glad people's true forms are being exposed. Thank you to Ray Fisher.
Yeah, and people like Campia and the others, they can't understand what Ray Fisher's trying to accomplish by this. Oh, he's just being immature. He's prepubescent in whatever the hell he's supposed to try to get out of that. I have no idea. But he's handling it in the most immature way. No, he's handling it and I get what a little bit of Campia is saying.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, people do use social media as a weapon. And that is their first go-to. And that cancel culture nature is very annoying. But this is not like cancel culture. This is real deal shit right here. That like how these people were treated, and these people are still in Hollywood treating people like crap still. And there should be accountability, and that's what Fisher was saying. Accountability for their actions and what they did. Now, the thing was, there's some tweets going out there, and I don't want to like push too much on this stuff, but there was a lot of women coming out about how, Geoff Johns would treat them or would DM them on Twitter. And now it's kind of funny because he's not on Twitter, as we can see anyway. He hasn't been on Twitter and stuff like that. And you kind of hear just these things about it. And when I remember last week, I was just saying on our last stream that, as a person, Geoff Johns is a sack of crap. And, Shane and I have both heard from multiple people that, some of the same things about how he treats women. And that's kind of what I was referring to when I was talking about it. Yeah, he did a lot of fucked up things during Justice League, but that could just be looked at as a really crappy boss. But no, I mean, as a person, he's a sack of crap. And that's the things that we were hearing. And that's the things that I was talking about when we were doing the live stream. And then no less than 4 days later, there's people bringing this stuff up. So, I mean, I don't know. Are they legit? Are people just over-exaggerating things? I don't know. But, I mean, when you start hearing a lot of these things, it's kind of, it starts putting two and two together. But again, that's the guy's character. That's his personality. And that's going to come through on multiple levels.
Indeed. Do we want to roll into? We got bunch of stuff from Snyder today, which was pretty exciting.
I do have one last thing.
Okay.
I just want to bring up.
Throw it out there.
People are using this as a defense that Jason Momoa is doing the Frosty the Snowman thing, and it just so happens that John Berg and Geoff Johns are somehow producers on this thing.
Which is funny because the tweet that came out, at least that I saw, announcing that intentionally included those two names. So I thought that was a little.
So I don't know if you could find it, Shane. I either liked it or bookmarked it. I know this is kind of unprofessional, guys, but hey, I'm talking through a speakerphone.
Yeah. So
Colbert had a great explanation for this, and that I found very telling. That I found very funny. So it's either in the bookmarks or our likes. It's a pretty decent paragraph about this thing. So if you can find it, I will continue to talk and say gibberish while you're locating this tweet. Hopefully I bookmarked it or liked it while you're searching for it. But I thought it was a very telling explanation of how this came about. And I can kind of give a rough summary off the top of my head about this wasn't an official announcement from a studio. This seemed to be kind of maybe planted by somebody calling up a favor to put out this information. And obviously Colbert explains it much better in this tweet that hopefully Shane will find at any moment.
Yes, I believe this is the one. So he's replying to Carlos Digital, who says something fundamentally wrong inside WB for a few years now. How's WB Pictures going to drop a press release to delegitimize Ray Fisher? Stephen Colbert says, I have no idea about the background on this one, but I can tell you it wasn't a press release. Press releases usually go out en masse, but Deadline is the original source, and even other trades are crediting them, which usually means the studio isn't the source.
There it is. Boom. Good job, Shane.
Woo!
So the studio
Good memory.
was the source. This came from somebody. It sounds kind of like a panic move by certain individuals to try to sway their look and perception on the to the masses. And I found it very funny. And Colbert, writes for Screen Rant, and I heard him also talk about how They never got a press release from the studio about this. This had to come from somebody. And I don't know who's dying to leak that secret Frosty the Snowman script and video out there, movie. That's the word I'm looking for. Movie. I don't know if that's the really big dig that somebody was looking for to boost their career.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure John Goodman played Frosty at some point. So there we go. It's on the downhill. And then John Goodman eventually came back and was in like what Godzilla and all that good stuff. I don't know. I'm just rambling here, but
Happy birthday! There we go.
Exactly. So perfect.
Has everybody left because I sound like I'm talking to you?
No, surprisingly, people don't have anything better to do than to hear you talk through a phone, talk through a dial-up, and so we have 88 viewers so far, according to my.
You guys are insane.
Let's listen to these dumbasses try to put a show together. We're peeling back the curtain here, and you can see we bookmark certain things and try to rattle some shit off the top of our head. 94. All right, I don't know what glitched, but all of a sudden we have 94 people now. So
welcome everyone. I'm on a phone. For all those people that just showed up, for anybody that just showed up and is wondering why I'm talking through a phone, we'll just explain this real quick. I am camping. I am in the forest. But supposedly there was a Wi-Fi connection here, and I was on it, and we did some tests this morning before we announced this, and yeah, there was a little bit of a delay, but it worked for the most part. I left, I came back, and now the damn connection doesn't work at all. And it kept dropping out, and there was almost a 6 to 7 second delay when we were talking. So I said, Shane, screw it. Just put me on the damn phone. I was thinking about doing video call, and he would just hold it up to the camera.
I think that would have been worse.
But I think your arm would get tired after a while.
Yeah, exactly. So Carlos Martinez.
Like this.
Carlos Martinez says, nope, I'm out. And then he said JK. And then we had Men in Tights podcast says, I'm here because I have no life. Thanks. We appreciate that. Antone says it's an improvement, Matt. Oh man.
Dude, guys, I know this sounds weird coming from a speakerphone, but you guys are the best. All I can say is whoever listens to this show, you guys get this show. You guys get it.
Absolutely.
You totally do. You totally get this this self-deprecating humor that we produce.
Yeah, our shtick, how we throw certain things together. Greg Rivers says phone or cup and string. hey, he did mention a red Solo cup earlier. So.
I can't wait to go back and listen to how crappy this
sounds.
Man,
I don't know if I'm gonna. It's rough. The Air Squad says, "Damn it, missed the first 37 minutes." Yes, but please don't leave.
Well, you're gonna be very surprised.
Yeah,
you'll
be like, wait, why is Shane's dumbass just on here? What did I miss?
Why is he talking to Bosley?
Anyway. DJAF says, what the fuck, I just get hearing this dude on the phone. Yeah, that dude is Matt. So we're trying to string this together the best we can. Oh man.
That was my favorite one. I just got here and
like, what is happening? Oh man, so fantastic. All right, so we had an eventful day with Zack Snyder. First, he posted. Let me hide this part. So see if I can find it. I'm not. So he basically posted a real cool image of Ben Affleck as Batman, and then started commenting underneath, and people were screenshotting the comments. I actually have a really cool thread here from Scott McClellan that I'm going to steal because he did a fantastic job just kind of compiling all this for us. Most of them. There's a couple other tweets I'm going to pull up from other people. Some I thought were cool. One that I thought was pretty funny. And yeah, so it's awesome to see Snyder back on Vero, or I guess he's always been on Vero, but still answering questions, still enticing people. So Matt, feel free to try to follow along best you can, and feel free to ask me to pull up specific tweets or comments if I forget some. So the first,
I only remember like 2 or 3. So
all right. So the first one that I wanted to talk about right out the gate, I thought was super interesting. This comes from Fran Alonso. It says, "Hey Zack, is the black suit that appears behind Superman in the deleted scene in the scout ship the design for the suit he actually wears?" So Zack Snyder says, "Not quite. That was done without me trying to use my design, but got it a bit wrong." So I'm not sure. He doesn't use commas, but I'm assuming he says that was done without me, comma, trying to use my design, but got it a bit wrong. So essentially, to me, the way that I interpreted it, Matt, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like that was Snyder's scene, and someone changed it to release it as a deleted scene, which again is just more just bullshit of like, if that's the case, if they took that and threw that out there like, oh look, there's a black suit. It also explains why there's a black suit there, and then he comes out of the ship in his classic red and blue. So it's, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. How did you interpret that, Matt?
Not so much with the commas. That's actually very interesting that you say that. I did not interpret that at all. I just thought that what he was referencing was that obviously because even Michael Wilkes has said that they never made a practical costume. Now, that might be something that was kind of thrown together lightly, not something that Henry Cavill could actually wear. But he said that early on they scrapped the black suit, so they never really made one. So I always took it that one was a CGI suit that comes out of the ship when Cavill's walking through in the deleted scene. So when I first thought about it, I thought that meant somebody had kind of free will with it and maybe tweaked it or did something different to it that Snyder didn't want done, and that the costume will actually look a lot different when Cavill walks through when he wears it. Now that kind of got me excited because from what what we've been told and some people have been saying is that actually he will have a cape with the black suit, which I'm kind of like on. But maybe that means that it won't have a cape. I don't know. Again, on a lot of those behind the scenes that we've seen with the blue suit, and Snyder's talked about how they were planning to change it basically with CGI afterwards. That's what his goal was. And the fact that almost in every scene that we've seen of behind the scenes with Henry Cavill, there's no cape. And yeah, they obviously do a lot of digital cape work and stuff like that. But it kind of made me feel like that's another thing that makes it much easier to change it to black and make a black suit, is you don't have to worry about cropping out or whatever, the actual term is. He's not actually cropping it out. A suit, the crop function on fucking Photoshop.
Right, yeah, anyway, exactly.
And, actually crop out the cape. There's no cape. So now he can just make a straight black suit with a silver S. But I don't know. I didn't think about that the way you did. That's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, again, sometimes Snyder speaks in code a little bit, but that was after reading it. I'm like, that almost sounds like that there was a scene there, because obviously it's not mustache Cavill, so there was a scene. There's a core of a scene there, but it almost seems like someone took some liberties that Snyder didn't approve or didn't want to go with, and basically threw in the black suit there. Maybe that wasn't even supposed to be in there. Who knows? And to me,
maybe he's looking at the black suit. Maybe he's supposed to be looking at the black suit.
Right. One that pops up behind him.
Yeah. Maybe in order the suit was different. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So, and in terms of the black suit in comic book, he doesn't have a cape, so I would prefer that. But I also want the beard and the mullet. That's just me. But in the yep, exactly. But in the nightmare scene, or I guess it's not necessarily a nightmare scene, kind of the one with Zod where he has a black suit and he starts sinking into the skeletons and everything of the world. He has a cape, and I think it looks kind of cool. And Zod also has a cape. He has a black suit, and I think it looks kind of cool. I'm kind of I could go either way on it, but it would be kind of sweet to see him without one. Exactly.
So actually, the next tweet, I don't know the order, but the next comment or response that you should say after talking about that is the compromise one. I don't know when that one comes up.
I was going to save that for later.
But I think it kind of ties in well to what he's talking about with this black suit.
Okay, so this one, why I was going to save it for later is it was insane and very eye-opening and pretty cool to me. So this comes from Jad Bellini. You're welcome, guys. That I'm the one reading all these fucking names tonight. So he says, assuming that you're assuming that your cut of Justice League somehow gets released back in 2017, how different would it have been from the one that we're going to see in 2021? I mean, have you made certain compromises in order to release your cut, or are we going to see it exactly like you intended it to be? And let me see if he has a couple replies actually. So he says no compromise with a flexing arm, and then the next one was 2017 all compromise. So immediately to me, taking out anything that was somewhat of a compromise, and he's now putting it into his or he's putting in what he wants, removing anything that was some sort of a compromise. And a lot of the things that maybe we thought were going to be in this movie that were released, some of the unfinished VFX, all sorts of things that were coming out that were being leaked. Now a lot of this might be new to us, which I think is going to be pretty cool, because there's part of me that was getting the feeling of, man, we've seen a lot of this stuff. He's released a lot of it on his own. We can kind of get an idea of how this movie is going to play out, all the way to the ending of how Steppenwolf dies. But now, if this is an entire non-compromised version, it's exactly how he wants it to be. Number one, that's awesome that AT&T is putting all of their eggs in that Zack Snyder basket, saying happy Easter. Yes, bam, here you go. You get to do this movie or this series, if you will, the way that you wanted to do it. So it's exciting. And yeah, going back to what Matt was saying in terms of the suit, it kind of plays into that a little bit.
Yeah, actually, Brad Curran of Screen Rant, I believe that's how he says his name, did an article somewhat recently, but this is stuff that we've been talking about for a while. But his article was talking about how there's about 5 or 6 versions, I believe it was, of Justice League. And you think about it from script phase to final phase, yeah, there's multiple ideas of what this film was supposed to be at one point. Obviously, there's the post-BVS Justice League script, where Snyder talked about it just at SnyderCon, that was too scary, and they had to change things up. And that was going to lead into his Justice League 2 and 3, his concept of that idea. So that got changed. So then now the new script is a very Johns-influenced script. And then that one's done. And then when they're on set, more things get changed again by Johns, because he's on set quite frequently. So, like, I believe you talked to Fish, or I heard you talk to Fish. Some of these other lines that we heard that we know are actually Snyder's shots, but we're like, that doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem like something Snyder would do. Those are Johns-influenced lines. And those lines and those things are in that original 214 cut. It's crazy now to think that we were all dying for this 214 cut. And I think that's kind of what Snyder thought, like, if he was going to be able to release anything, it would probably be this 214 cut, and that's why he was putting it out there. But now, because of HBO Max and all the things that were opened up to him, and the fact that there's such a high demand for this, HBO Max is giving him carte blanche. Make a Snyder cut. Make a Zack Snyder's Justice League. As much of the weird shit that you want to put in, do it. And there's actually some things later on here we'll talk about that confirms this even more. So, and we talked about in a other video where how he could possibly alter with AI a mouth, and he could add in or remove certain dialogue. Like, I heard you talk to Fish. He can remove that and have Ben Affleck saying something else instead, or what he intended Ben Affleck to say there. And again, and he can also film them with very minimalist green screen and camera and everything else, just like we talked about in our previous video. This stuff has been talked about since November of last year. When we saw what happened, the possibilities shot open, and we knew then, and a lot of people knew then, that this thing was not going to be what we thought it was going to be anymore. It changed on that moment when Gal Gadot Ben Affleck, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa, everybody, the cast and crew, all came together on November 17th, and the fans, and said release the Snyder Cut.
I just wanted to read some quick comments here. Gregor Von Doom says, Shane Reading is like Campia trying to make an analogy with food. He must do some great analogies with food then, bastard. Sickness says, collect call from the science cells. And then we have, Men Tights Podcast. That means 100% Snyder Ontario, which is pretty cool. And then let's see, HJN, HBO Max and AT&T want this to be as different as possible from the theatrical version. And that's really that's the feeling that I'm getting, is they are going, again, to drop a huge bombshell when this fucking movie comes out and people go, holy shit, it's not even close to what we got in 2017. Let's just completely remove that from HBO Max and drop in the actual version like they did with Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. So, all right.
Pop over to the next.
Yep.
Comment.
So this one is for you, Matt. First of all, thanks for everything. This comes from Macy FH at Zack Snyder. I just have a question. What did you mean about Unite the Seven? A Green Lantern is coming. And then Scott McClellan actually went in his tweet, says in brightest day. And then Snyder's response was just a winky face. So, Matt, how did you interpret that?
That we're going to have a winky face Green Lantern.
Exactly. Thank you for your insight.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I just got surprised that you even said that.
No. All right. Well,
Ryan Reynolds confirmed.
Boom, there we go. It's Snyder talking in code. He's having some fun with it. Nice little winky face. It could be Martian Manhunter. It could be who knows? It could be Supergirl at this point. He's nice little wink and nod. And people are still begging for that Green Lantern, which at this point, I hope we don't get it. I hope he doesn't doomsday it, and we just see Ryan Reynolds or whoever, Green Lantern, come out in 2021, bam, on the actual movie. So next one is, does Cyborg have a nightmare vision where Superman is destroying the world under Darkseid's authorities some moments before Clark opens his eyes and flies out of his ship when the League drops a mother box on him? Zack Snyder's reply, hold on. Okay, another winky face.
That's what I kept seeing. Winky faces.
All right, so yeah, we've seen some storyboards. Cool. All right, moving on.
Well, one thing I do want to say is that is a heavy fan speculation, because it is the reason why Cyborg's suit shoots at Superman in Heroes Park, because he's saying my defenses are up. They're stronger since the interface with the ship.
Yes.
And that's because the suit and the mother box saw somehow he got projected, and he sees something what could happen with that ravaged nightmare scene and Superman being influenced by the anti-life equation. And that was one of the comments. That's one of the heavy fan theories, is that's the reason why he says my defenses are up since the interface, because he does see that. So that is a very plausible fan speculation. So, I think that's what people are talking about, and why they ever left that line in the theatrical cut doesn't make any goddamn sense, because they're running out of footage and needed to use it, I guess. I'm not sure. Men in Tights Podcast says release the winky face cut. Yeah, Zack Snyder. I guess I should have gone through these a lot more in detail, because I didn't know two of them back to back would have a nice little winky face afterwards. Oh man, Sickness says he found Captain Winky. Oh man, good stuff. Are we over 100 since I'm on a fucking phone?
We are. We're at 106. Look at us go.
Really?
Look at us go.
I can't get you here when I'm there, but when I'm on the fucking, I guess I'm too ugly, and that's why no one clicks on the fucking thing.
Off the side, well, and I've barely been showing. I'm in a very small little box off to the side. I've been leaving our Twitter up the whole time so that people could just.
We found the key. Don't show our faces. Oh wait, we don't.
Yeah, exactly. So another one, this comes from Eric and Blake. Hey, shout out there. There's been some debate over whether or not your JL has Lois giving the speech where she says, only from the darkness can we truly feel the light, etc. Could you settle for us, sir? In your version of the film, does Amy Adams give that statement? Zack Snyder winks. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he just says, I don't know what that is. So this, I've seen a lot of people now on Twitter because of this specific comment. They have been saying like, wait a minute. So they felt that that was something that maybe actually came from Zack Snyder, but it almost seems like it doesn't now.
Well, I think what the prevailing theory has been for quite a while now, and it was known to us when the Silas Stone death scene was revealed to us nonchalantly by some guys on Twitter, was that that's actually Joe Morton lines. And it's a message to Victor at the end of the movie, that plays at the end of the movie because he's dead. Spoiler. For anybody that doesn't know that. Spoiler. And that was where Joe Morton's scene. So it sounds like Snyder/Terrio dialogue because it somewhat is, but it was meant for a different character. And that's been, from what I understand, the prevailing theory for quite a while now. So sorry, Eric. They broke you hot.
Yeah, but even the fact that Snyder doesn't recognize the lines at all is what's kind of interesting about it. Maybe he didn't film the scene. Maybe he doesn't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's kind of what I was seeing a lot on Twitter. So we have DJ AF. Thank you very much. He gave us $2.99 to pitch in for a better sounding phone for Matt.
I'm trying.
Comic Book Craig Movies says Matt has a face for radio.
That is actually true. That's not even funny. That's just true.
I think we both do. So this comes from 9Spectre528 at Comic Movie Marks. Yo, what did I miss? A lot. I'm just playing some Simple Planes right now, building a certain American stealth fighter as we speak. It's the exact same one as on my pick. That's pretty sweet. So what you missed was that Matt is camping and has to talk from his phone. And yeah, we're just trying to throw this together. And apparently because of the lockdowns, a lot of people have nothing else better to do than to watch our dumbasses.
Well, they ain't watching me do shit.
So,
I'm just chilling here. I'm camping and stuff like that.
Let me see some of
the... Trying to get my damn dog over.
Trying to roll. This was a cool one. Jesus Cubas says, as Zack Snyder, sir, will Jonathan Kent appear one more time in your JL movie? And then again, Snyder comes through with the winky face. So that was something else that was on Twitter a lot, was people saying, oh, sweet, that would be awesome if Jonathan Kent makes an appearance, which I feel like, especially because this is a Superman story arc from Man of Steel, BVS to Justice League 1, 2, and 3, that it would be only fitting to have Jonathan Kent appear somehow. We had the lovely little rock scene in BVS, and it just, to me, it's fitting. He needs to be in the movie somehow and incorporated somewhere, and that's just my opinion, but that was pretty cool.
Yep.
And then with the innuendos, when asked if working on BFX, he says, fuck yes, so deep in it.
Yeah, that's what we all say.
Yes, as deep as a couple inches can get.
After 8 seconds.
Let's see. Sorry, guys, you're seeing me just scroll through this nonsense. This was kind of interesting. Love Batfleck. I was wondering where he got the trench coat from. And Snyder says probably pulled it off some dead guy. So some people are kind of reading into that. Matt, did you have any interpretation for that?
Dick Tracy?
Possibly. So some of the stuff that I was seeing was that came from Clark. Clark has a trench coat. I don't know. It's just randomness.
Oh, yeah. I guess it kind of does match the scene that won't be in the Snyder Cut, probably, because even though Snyder shot it, the peel back, the peeling of the shirt to reveal the S Because that was forced hope and optimism.
Right.
Maybe it was that one the whole time. Maybe it's Jim Gordon's. Who the hell knows?
Gregor, that was another thing, was Jim Gordon. Gregor Von Doom. Next show, Matt and Shane will be just Muppets. That is a fantastic idea. However, we do not have the budget for it. So if you want to contribute to our Patreon, we do have a Patreon.
Mr. Sucko!
Exactly.
Yeah, we can't buy the arts and crafts for the eyes and shit on the socks.
Right.
I have no Sharpies.
Yeah, Nine Spectre 528 says also someday it could be possible that it could be Thomas's. Absolutely. And then someone just joined us. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but he says, "Oh my God, I made it. Hi guys. I had to dump my girl to be here. Phew, priorities." You chose correct, my friend. Well, sort of.
Worst possible time to come. Because guess what? I'm on a phone. Because internet at this damn thing doesn't work worth the shit.
We tried.
And even though Garza's internet sometimes works, apparently it's still better than this place.
Yeah. And the funny part too is we as Matt mentioned, we tested it earlier and it was okay. There were some moments where the audio delay wasn't nearly as bad, and then other times where it was like 10 seconds, it felt like. So we were trying, and earlier this morning, we're like, okay, let's give it a go. And all of a sudden, it's time to go, and we're getting everything set up, and it's not working. So that's why I threw in the comments, hey, sorry, technical difficulties. We're trying to figure out the best way to bring Matt to you guys in your homes.
And this is the
best we can do. So you're welcome. At BVS was good says, "Hey boss, want to break Twitter and confirm Steppenwolf has his original design in your JL." And Zack Snyder says, "Is that not well known?" Yeah. So so pretty much confirmed. We're getting the original Steppenwolf.
Well, we're getting a non-theatrical cut version of Steppenwolf because at this point, do we even know what his design was, his preference? Because there's the one in the BVS, the one in BVS, and then there's the one in the previs, which is different than the BVS version. And then some of the concept art and 3D and kind of 3D little images that gentleman on Instagram has posted, and I cannot remember his name. I want to call him Joe Martinez or Martez or something like that, but I'm pretty sure that's really wrong. So we'll just go with that dude on Instagram that did a lot of the concept art and a lot of his images for Justice League. He's put out several versions. He's put out at least 4 versions of Steppenwolf. And yeah, they all just have a slight difference, but we still don't know what exact one Snyder's choosing. So that's going to be a surprise. I saw a tweet by Stephen Colbert a while back saying that it might be a design that we haven't really talked about or people haven't really brought up much.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, that it may be something that we possibly haven't even seen it, because there's no guarantee that they put out all the concept art that they made about the Steppenwolf. And maybe there's a design that since Snyder has carte blanche, that he may prefer over everything, and that we may not even have seen it.
I think that would be awesome. I've seen some people on Twitter and on Instagram throw out that they would like to see the one from the comics, which is a little bit more human, I guess. To me, the BVS design is awesome looking. And I think that would be sweet if that's the version we got. But whatever one that Snyder goes with, I'm happy. The one that we got in the theatrical is atrocious, and I'm glad we're doing away with that.
It'd be funny if he only does a slightly different version than that.
Right.
Because I've seen a couple where they just put more armor on that version.
Or a mustache. He puts a mustache on it.
Because I think there were some fan edits, and they just modify the armor a little bit, and that's it. And it does make him a little bit more intimidating when they add more armor and make him look a little bit more mass and not so lanky looking. But I've seen those, so it'd be kind of funny if it's something like that. But yeah, there's a possibility that we haven't really even seen the version that Snyder might use. And again, that just shows how much money he's getting. It's not the 20-30 million that they said in that Hollywood Reporter article. Just like Greenblatt said, he wished it was 30 million. It's way more, because if he's completely changing Steppenwolf's design, adding scenes, finishing the VFX, all that. Yeah, it's a lot more. We're getting so much more, guys. 4 hours plus of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Just insane, guys. 2021 cannot come soon enough.
Yeah, there was something else I think that I skipped over that just talked about his trailer. And they said, can we get the Come Together trailer? He says, I have something better. So I'm excited. I hope that he keeps some things real close to the chest, whether it's Green Lantern or you know,
the winky face.
Yeah, back to the winky face, Mr. Winky.
I think all we're gonna get is arm flexes and winky faces.
Yeah, exactly. He's
maybe
genius.
Some thumbs up. I think that's all we're gonna get now, guys.
Yeah,
and then just denying things like, what's that? And I think somebody else asked, like, did Superman race Flash at the end? Which
hold on, I'm gonna get to that. I had a perfect setup for it.
My bad.
No,
what happens when I'm on the phone? I can't see what you're doing.
You're good. So, well, one real quick, I thought was kind of cool. Some people have been speculating as well. Is what are your thoughts on Jared Leto Joker? Would you like to see an interaction between him and Batfleck 2? And Zack Snyder's response was winky face. Just kidding. It was, I always loved him in the part. And some people have speculated, how cool would that be if Jared Leto's Joker makes a cameo appearance or whatever. So, yeah, I thought that was just kind of cool to acknowledge. Loved him in the part. Jared Leto, unfortunately, did not. We didn't get to see his full version of the Joker. And this actually was retweeted from Release the Air Cut on Twitter as well. So again, campaigning for something else. And then my lovely setup was going to be, you know how they say in school, there's no stupid questions. Well, stand corrected. There is a stupid question. Did your version of the race between Flash and Superman have the version of the race between Flash and Superman in the end? And clearly, because it has a chopped up, terrible looking Superman, Zack Snyder says, what race? Like, why would you even? I don't know. I don't. Maybe down the line, if it's not so forced, because that's something that's, a classic comic book lore is the race between Flash and Superman. But the fact that it was in there, it just felt so forced. That I hate the Superman suit. I hate the mustache, Cavill. Just the whole thing. It's a terrible scene, and it just made me laugh at this individual. Sorry to throw shade, as the youngsters say, but that was a terrible question.
There are no stupid questions, just stupid people.
And yeah, we've had a stupid person. No, just kidding. All right, so
I'm talking on a phone through a microphone.
Was there any other ones that I missed, Matt, before we get on to the Henry Cavill stuff?
No, not that I can think of. I'm pretty sure. There was him talking about the score. That was another kind of question that I was confused about. Was that people were asking him if Junkie XL was going to do the score?
Yeah, and he basically confirmed yes, right? He said like "fuck yeah" or something like that.
Yeah, and I was like, we think he wasn't going to do the score? Like, I don't know what that person was trying to get at. I feel like there was maybe something meant more for that, but I don't know. After the Flash question, the Flash race question, I don't know. Maybe just some people were just like really want to ask questions and they don't know what to say, so they're like obvious things or something. I don't know. I
guess it's almost like SnyderCon, but written down. Like, oh, well, he's answering questions. Let's just throw out what we can. Maybe we'll get something.
If somebody asks who's your favorite Spider-Man, then I'm
That's what we should do, just for fun.
Too many people try to do it now. Pisses me off.
All right. So this is some stuff. I'm going to try to summarize as best I can. But I stole the tweet from our lovely friend Chris Wong, who says Henry Cavill talks about the Snyder Cut and Superman rumors. The source was an interview with Variety, I believe, and it was actually talking about mainly The Witcher, I want to say, but there's some questions in there of the lovely Snyder Cuts that he cannot escape. So the question is, are you surprised with the Snyder Cut? The Snyder Cut of Justice League is finally being released. And Cavill says, I don't know if I'm surprised with everything that has happened this year with the lockdown in cinemas, having to close streaming services, yada, yada, yada. It's not really a surprise. I think it's one of those things where it's an opportunity, and I think it's great that Zack has an opportunity to finally release his vision. And I think it's really important for a storyteller and filmmaker. When that doesn't happen, it's always a sad occasion. And now Zack has the opportunity, and I'm excited to watch it.
Oh, you weren't going to play the video?
Oh, damn, that would have been better. I should have done that.
I was waiting for I thought you were just kind of queuing up the video.
I guess I could have. I was just going to read because clearly people love me reading. So.
Oh, man. Yeah. Cool shit, man.
Do you want me to find the video? Would you prefer that?
No.
Okay.
It was. I thought you were setting up the video, so I'm gonna be kind of honest here. I wasn't listening to
you. Oh man.
I thought you were queuing up the video, and then I was waiting to hear the video because I was trying to do something else. So
I'm hoping this. Oh crap! Now I got pop-ups and all sorts of shit. I don't even know where the actual video was.
There was one bookmarked on Twitter.
I bookmarked something else. Meltdown. Our viewers are dropping left and right.
Are they?
No, I don't know.
Oh, they will. They will after that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Holy shit! How do they make it? Oh, here it is. Woo! All right. So I'm queuing it up. Bam.
Okay.
All the stuff I just read.
Lockdown and cinemas having to close and streaming services now being how we are getting our entertainment, it's not really a surprise. I think it's one of those things where it's an opportunity, and I think it's great that Zack has an opportunity to finally release his vision. And I think that's really important for a storyteller and a filmmaker. It's when that doesn't happen, it's always a sad occasion. And now Zack has the opportunity, and I'm excited to watch it.
The Snyder Cut. But are you surprised?
I'm laughing because that's literally everything I just read. But there we go. Did you have a second video?
No.
Okay, because with
the British accent, it makes more sense.
Oh, okay. Bloody hell! No, I'm just kidding. That was terrible. Sorry. So that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, there was another part where he talks about go back to playing Superman again. And then he talks about just essentially rumors and how it's funny and frustrating sometimes when people are stating facts on the internet. And he's like, no, that's not the case. That hasn't happened. That conversation isn't happening. And then he even says that he thought about making up an account to basically get online and clarify some rumors, but he thought best about it. But all right, anyways, to you, Matt, your thoughts.
It's funny how even after its release, he's still getting Zack Snyder's Justice League questions. And it blows me away that people still keep asking about this, because it shows that there's, people keep saying, when we get them in our comments all the time, it's like, oh, this tiny little fandom's going to get their movie because they're a bunch of bitches. And like, you hear all this crap that we get in our comment section, and like these people like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 all this stuff. But yet people keep asking Henry Cavill about this movie because there is a market for it. There's people that want to know this information, and it's a huge deal, and people know that, so they're going to keep asking those questions. And unfortunately, good or bad, not sure how you look at it, when Gal Gadot starts doing more stuff for Wonder Woman 84, whatever the hell that movie's going to come out.
Who knows at this point?
She's going to start getting questions about Zack Snyder's Justice League, or some of the comments that Ray Fisher has made about Joss Whedon and John Byrne and Geoff Johns. So now her movie's going to get taken over, just like with The Witcher and other things that Henry Cavill's trying to promote. This is getting taken over by the Snyder Cut, and now these things are going to be taken over. And that's kind of, it sucks, but it's what's going to happen. It's because this is the topics right now. This is what's going on. And unfortunately, these actors and actresses were part of probably one of the most historical things in Hollywood. A director's cut is getting fulfilled within a reasonable amount of time. The Donner Cut is a big deal, but that took so many years, and most people didn't even realize it at the time. And obviously, a lot of those people from WB and the Salkinds and stuff like that, they weren't around really anymore. They weren't part of it. So it was kind of like, okay, it's out there. yeah, we didn't like each other, yada yada yada, and the cast was like, Lester was okay, but we didn't know what he was really doing. But this is huge because this is only 3 years separated from that moment, and now Zack Snyder's Justice League is coming out in 2021, and more could happen from there. And it's just crazy how that's taken over the narrative for these actors and actresses.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of people want to know more about the Snyder Cut, and I think personally, unless you were really close to comic book movies, superheroes, a lot of people didn't really know about the Donner Cut. To be honest, I there's still people I'll talk to about it, and they're familiar with Superman 2. They're familiar with a lot of the scenes, but they're not familiar with the Donner version that ended up ultimately coming out. This is such a it just said we're in such a different time with how quickly it came out. The fact that it's going to be on a streaming service, that it's going to potentially be a series now, and we even have the enemies across the bow who are potentially in the MCU releasing a series as well, instead of movies, kind of in the same way, which I think is kind of funny. But we're in just such a different time, and the fact that AT&T comes in. They want this thing to be so successful. They're pumping out as much content as possible, and they're trying to make a streaming service successful. To me, it's crazy. We're in such a different time now, and it's fun and it's exciting, and it's to me way different than the Donner Cut because I feel like there's a lot of people that didn't really know about it.
I wouldn't probably have known about it as soon as I did if it wasn't for you. Knowing you, that would probably be a big deal for me. Is that I probably wouldn't even noticed it until much later.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm just friends with you is how I knew about the Donner Cut and what was even happening with that. So yeah, it takes the timing of the Donner Cut and how much time was separated from it. It definitely just kind of people like, oh, cool, it's a different version of Superman 2, and not really. And even if they did notice it, this is just like it's not too far from what actually happened. Some of those people are still there. Toby Emmerich, Geoff Johns is still floating around in the back there, and John Berg is still apparently heavily influenced in other things for producing. And it's kind of crazy that it's still there.
Yep, absolutely. I'm reading, just kind of going through some of the comments. Carlos Martinez says, "Do we believe a streaming DCEU is viable?" What do you say, guys? I think the way that the amount of money that AT&T is pumping into just the Snyder Cut alone makes me believe, yes, they want it to be successful. And as much as I would love to have this on the big screen and have it, released in theatrically, which who's to say it won't down the road? Maybe they want to double dip on that as well. Take a page out of the comic movie Mark's playbook, double dip a little bit, and release it theatrically. I think it is definitely viable. There's a lot more free reign now for Zack Snyder, which is going to make it a lot more exciting. And I think that's what is going to make it successful versus all of the politics that we've seen you have to play when it comes to a theatrical release and making a movie successful in China and blah, 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 and the merchandising and all that nonsense. They want to make this successful. And it's cool and different that it's going to be through a streaming service for sure.
Well, one thing that as wrestling fans that we have is the knowledge of the WWE Network, which is one of the first streaming platforms to really go mainstream and try to make content their own. And it's not the first, but it was one of the bigger ones to like almost eliminate pay-per-views, pretty much selling WrestleMania for $9.99. And it became a big deal how it affected pay, but they've been able to pull it off because a lot of that money goes directly to their pocket instead of splitting it up with third parties. So that's how that saves you money. And I can guarantee that AT&T was probably very excited with the increase in buys for HBO Max they had as soon as they just announced the Zack Snyder Justice League, which was coming in 2021. But people like Shane, myself, all bought subscriptions. I guess they only do monthly ones. The DC Universe app's the one I bought the year before. But we bought monthly subscriptions just because of that, man of our word. You offered us, you're going to give us Zack Snyder's Justice League. We will buy this content and definitely go forward with HBO Max. And as I've been tooling around on HBO Max, I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
they have a lot more stuff than I realized, especially because HBO, and I don't know how long it's going to last, has so many rights to certain movies that are not WB movies. So I was watching a lot of DreamWorks stuff. I was watching things from Fox because they actually will use the Fox library unlike Disney Plus. I mean, Aliens is all over that. Alien vs. Predator, and it's kind of cool that the HBO Max has this access to this stuff. I'm sure when they saw the uptick in buys from the people that wanted Zack Snyder's Justice League right when they announced it, I'm sure they're looking at it like, okay, we got something here. How do we maximize it? And you can tell they're going to do things this way probably for a while, and they're probably going to do things better.
Yeah, that's a great comparison with the WWE Network, because I noticed that there's a lot of things that on the WWE Network that they pump out that typically would have been through a DVD. And, whether it's like one that just came out as about a championship and, basically the history behind the United States Championship. And that's typically something that they would release through a DVD and try going that route, and they release it on their network because they need content, and it's obviously that's a huge driving force for them. And then we're starting to see with HBO Max as well. They have a movie now with Seth Rogen that's going to be exclusive on there. It looks okay, but you can tell that they're trying. Everyone is trying to have their own type of streaming service with their own exclusive content that makes you want to go to their service. And yeah, as Matt, I agree with him. Initially I was on the fence about getting HBO Max at all. That was going to be one of the few streaming services that I didn't sign up for right off the bat. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I already invested in DC Universe and I have all these other streaming platforms. Do I really need another one? And then as soon as Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced, boom, signed up. And with this latest update that they did, where they actually added some Superman movies that they had dumped off of their DC Universe app. They have a lot more of the animated movies. If you want to follow the DC animated universe that they had kind of built, they have not all of them, but the majority of them on there, which is pretty cool. Just in the DC thing alone. And yeah, I had also noticed that the HBO name is still holding true to value, is that they have rights to a lot of movies that aren't just Warner Brothers, which makes a lot more sense as to why it's not, Warner Brothers Max or whatever. I was always confused about that, but they're using the HBO name. That's, I guess, a household name somewhat, and kind of going based on that. And they have a lot of rights. Who knows how long it'll last for, but it's pretty cool.
All right, I think we should call it there.
Yeah.
Because my hand is going numb.
This is one of the longest ones that we've done, and it's with Matt on a phone. So I guess thank you guys to everyone who joined us. We had a crap ton of viewers for our. We're nowhere near Dave the Film Junkie or Chris Wong, but thank you guys truly from the bottom of our hearts of how many people joined for this, and hope you're all having a fantastic 4th of July. Matt, any last words?
Yeah, don't go camping if you want to do a stream, because Wi-Fi doesn't work.
As a camping place that offers Wi-Fi, we had high hopes, but yeah, not so much. Hey, this I hope turned out decent. You guys are awesome. The comments fantastic. Thank you for the $2.99. We appreciate that as well. And again, as always, our cheap plugs. We do have a Patreon. Shout out to our Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome, keeping this channel going. As you can see, we are currently powered by StreamYard, but maybe down the road we'll actually do the paid version. And it's allowing us to really, keep the quality up as best as possible. Yeah, so
my StreamYard and Verizon.
Exactly, and Verizon, yeah, exactly. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Glad you guys were able to join us.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't see what joined us, and I couldn't really enjoy in the comments as much as Shane did, but I can tell by the ones that Shane read out loud that you definitely get the channel and realize that this shitty content and shitty quality is kind of what you get. you know, you get bang for your buck here, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. You get what you pay for. And here we are.
And yeah, so thanks again, guys, for everybody that came and watched it. I don't know how we broke 100 on this. It must be the thumbnail.
Right, I guess. They're like, what is this? Background music while they're getting trashed on. Oh, the key is we have to stream on holidays when people are drinking.
Oh,
so
there we go.
They don't even know what they're watching. Oh, cool. Let's click on it. Yeah, sweet.
This guy's a great ventriloquist. Look at that. He even plays it in mono. Anyway,
Yeah.
All right. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.